2 days' time is becoming clearer every day. The question is, who will lead our country through the Brexit negotiations and get the best deal for the United Kingdom in Europe, me or Jeremy Corbyn? And our economic security will be on the ballot paper on the 8th of June. Over the last 7 years, thanks to the hard work of the British people and the credible economic plan we have pursued in government, significant progress has been made. We have taken the British economy out of the danger zone and begun to repair the damage done to it by Labour. The deficit has come down by almost 3/4 as a share of GDP. The UK economy has grown at one of the fastest rates in the developed world. Employment has increased by 2.9 million since Labour were in power. And we should never forget what those numbers mean for ordinary working families. They mean a better future and more security. They mean a better standard of living for people and more tax revenue to spend on vital public services like our NHS, schools and defence. And just today, we have seen that the work of fixing Labour's economic mess continues. The government has sold its remaining shares in Lloyds Banking Group as we continue to repair the damage to our banking sector. And today's employment figures show that our credible economic policies are continuing to deliver greater economic security for families across the country. But none of this happened by accident. Our economic progress has been dearly won and could easily be lost if the wrong policies were pursued in the years ahead. It is frankly all at risk. Any party which asks the British people to entrust to them the responsibilities of forming the next government through the crucial years of our Brexit negotiations and beyond must demonstrate that it has the credible economic plan and the capable team to safeguard our economic security. No one could look at what Jeremy Corbyn and his Labour Party offered yesterday and conclude that it passed the test. The risk which a Jeremy Corbyn-led government would pose to our economy has been laid bare. But manifestos are also a test of something else. They are a test of leadership. Later this week, I will publish my party's manifesto for the next 5 years. Unlike Jeremy Corbyn's fantasy wish list of easy promises paid for with imaginary money, I will set out in detail the 5 great challenges our country faces over the next 5 years and lay out how we will tackle them. While Jeremy Corbyn and Labour retreat into an ideological comfort zone, ducking the difficult challenges which lie ahead, I will be straight with people. I won't shy away from facing the challenges of our time. Rather, I will set out how we will tackle them head on. Because that is what leadership is about. And on this key test, Jeremy Corbyn has failed once again. If he can't show real leadership of his party now, how could he lead our country through Brexit? How could he sit down with the prime ministers, presidents and chancellors of Europe and get a good deal for Britain? At this election, only the strong and stable leadership of me and my team can deliver the successful Brexit our country needs, face up to the challenges which lie ahead, and improve the lives of everyone in our country. It will be strong leadership and credible policies for a better future. That starts with getting the right Brexit deal for Britain, which locks in economic security for our country. The weakness of Jeremy Corbyn and the chaos of the coalition which would put him into Downing Street would put that at risk. And with it, the future prosperity of families across our country. And the Chancellor will now say more about that.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Yesterday, the Labour manifesto confirmed what we already suspected, that they do not have a credible plan for our country's future, and they cannot be trusted with our country's finances. What we saw yesterday is only the latest in a catalogue of chaos from Labour. Throughout this campaign, Labour have shown time and time again that they lack the basic competence and credibility to govern this country. We've seen Jeremy Corbyn and his closest lieutenants exposed as being simply not up to the job. The Shadow Chancellor, the self-confessed Marxist John McDonnell, doesn't know how big the deficit is. The Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, at one stage was suggesting you can employ a police officer for £30 a year. The Shadow Education Secretary, Angela Rayner, couldn't tell us how many children their class size policy would affect. And yesterday, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Emily Thornberry, was unable to explain Labour's policy on benefits. Labour have simply become a shambles. And as yesterday's manifesto showed, their numbers simply do not add up. Now that Jeremy Corbyn has published his manifesto in full, we've been able to update the analysis which David Davis and I published previously. We can now set out the full damage his nonsensical plans would do to the nation's finances by 2021-22. The new dossier of analysis we've published today shows that there is a £58 billion black hole in Jeremy Corbyn's plans in just 1 year alone. Proposal after proposal in Labour's manifesto mean more borrowing and more debt, from uncosted promises to increase benefits to unexplained threats to seize control of private companies. These plans, many of them extremely questionable in themselves, simply do not add up. Any shred of economic credibility which Labour had left has now been buried by Jeremy Corbyn and his acolytes. And this matters to families across the United Kingdom. The economic chaos which would hit our country if Labour were in a position to implement the shambolic package of policies they unveiled yesterday would leave every household in Britain counting the cost. The price of Labour's chaos would be felt in higher taxes and steeper mortgage bills for working families. This economic chaos would mean higher unemployment, robbing families of the peace of mind and security which comes with a job. It would mean more borrowing, throwing away all the hard-earned progress of the last 7 years, and take us right back to square one, with a growing deficit, growing debt, and increasing financial uncertainty for the next generation. Labour's manifesto is a plan for an ideological few, which would mean economic chaos for the many. Only Theresa May and her Conservative team have a plan to lock in economic security and build a better future for our country. The stakes at this election could not be higher. A vote for any other party is simply too big a risk to take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip. We'll now take some questions. Laura.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister and Chancellor. You have attacked the Labour plans, not surprisingly, but if increasing tax and increasing spending overall is such a bad idea, why has it continued to happen under a government that you have both been part of for 7 years? You've repeatedly missed your deficit targets, and you even still have a black hole in your most recent budget, Chancellor. And if I may, the Chancellor this morning rather candidly admitted occasionally swearing in rows with number 10. If, after June, you are re-elected, will you still be next-door neighbours?
Look, first of all, I'll ask the Chancellor to respond as well. But first of all, let's be clear about what we're saying about the Labour Party manifesto. It simply doesn't add up. What we see today is this £58 billion black hole that we've identified in their figures. But what matters, these are large numbers, but what matters is the impact it has on ordinary working families. And it means that people will be paying the price of Labour, that they'll pay the price in higher taxes, in lower wages, in higher prices, and an economy which will be in chaos. The key thing is that over the last 7 years, we've shown we have that credible economic plan, and we have that credible economic plan for the future, to take us forward to ensure that we get the right deal from Brexit, but also lock in our economic security. And I think it's true to say that the Chancellor and I and every other member of my team are focused on June the 8th. Our focus is on winning this general election because it matters for the future of our country.
Laura, what I candidly admitted this morning, and my family will confirm this, is that I do occasionally swear. I wasn't referring to any particular conversation, but I do occasionally swear. Look, the difference here between us and Labour is Labour does not believe in balancing the budget. Prime Minister has said many times that as a country we have to get back to living within our means. We have to do that in a sensible way. We have to do it in a measured way that balances the needs of deficit reduction with the needs for investment in our economy and the needs of our public services. But we do have to do it. Labour doesn't believe in reducing taxes. Labour believes in increasing taxes. We are a low-tax party by instinct. Conservatives will always cost you less in tax.
Thank you. Emily?
Emily Morgan from ITV News. You're dismissing tensions between you and number 10, Mr. Hammond, but I think many people will want to know how bad relations really have got and whether you will still be Chancellor after the election if you do win.
Look, we work very closely together. The Prime Minister and I have known each other for many years. We work very closely together. She's got an extremely strong team around her. I work very closely with her team. Indeed, some of them are people that I've known for many years. We do work very well together as a team. And there's all this media tittle-tattle is just that, media tittle-tattle.
Beth.
Thank you, Beth Rigby, Sky News. Prime Minister, yesterday when we were at that Screwfix factory, Zia Karim, a father of 5 who takes home £300 a week, asked you twice about how you would help him cope with the cost of living. And he's right to, isn't he? Because figures out in the past 48 hours show inflation running at 2.7%, while weekly earnings are now running at 2.1% in the 3 months to March. You admitted to him that Brexit was partly to blame for his family's struggles. Are you now saying, and you also said there will be a couple of years of uncertainty, do you now say that there will be a squeeze on the cost of living for workers until Brexit is complete?
If I may, Beth, I didn't actually say that Brexit was responsible for the troubles that he had. I did say that we had, of course, seen an impact on inflation from changes to the currency over the last few months, and that, as everybody knows, we're going to a negotiation on Brexit over the next 2 years, and the final deal, that special relationship, special partnership that we want to build with Europe, will be for those negotiations. There are 2 ways of looking at the impact of cost of living for people. I mean, one is our desire to ensure that people are in work and that we see our economy generating higher paid jobs. That's what we want to see. But if you're going to do that, you've got to make sure you have a credible plan to build on the strength of the economy and not destroy it with the sort of policies that we've seen from the Labour Party yesterday in their manifesto. And then on the other side of the equation in terms of cost of living, of course, we can help people in certain areas, and that's exactly what we're doing and proposing to do in terms of energy costs, which, as you know, the CMA said that the energy market, that customers of the biggest 6 suppliers are paying £1.4 billion more a year than they would if the market was truly competitive. And that's why, in government, we would take action on that.
We've achieved 2.9 million new jobs since 2010, net new jobs. Our economy is one of the fastest growing developed economies in the world. Yes, of course, we have some inflation passing through the economy, but this will be transient. It's a result of currency movements last year. And the OBR forecasts that in every year of the 5-year forecast period, real wages will continue to increase. But as the Prime Minister says, the long-term answer to this question is that only by building a strong and resilient economy can we deliver sustainable economic growth and sustainable rising living standards. There is no other way of doing it. It's not done by writing in a Labour manifesto that we'll do X or Y or Z. That will not deliver sustainable rising living standards. Only getting the fundamentals of the economy right will do that. That requires a good Brexit deal, and it requires strong leadership to consolidate the gains that we've made in our economy over the last 7 years. And in my judgment, only the Prime Minister can deliver that.
Thank you. George, from the FT.
A question to both of you, which verges into the area of philosophy, I think, political philosophy. And without asking you to preempt your manifesto tomorrow, philosophy of taxation. Would you like to see a shift in the balance of taxation away from work and enterprise and onto wealth?
Well, I think my overriding philosophy of taxation is actually that we should be as low tax a country as possible, because it's in that way that we can ensure that businesses are investing here in creating jobs and that people have more of their own money to spend. That's my tax philosophy.
George, I think we've got a challenge as the economy changes shape. And if I may say so, that sounds like yesterday's question. As we move into a more digital economy, a more globalized economy, the challenge is how we tax a changing pattern of activity. How do we make sure that companies operating digitally in the global economy, who may have a big footprint in the UK, but not necessarily a big taxable presence in the UK, how do we make sure that they pay their fair share? This is an international question. It can only be dealt with by agreement between the nations, and Britain has led in the G20 and other forums in taking forward this debate about how we are going to make sure that our tax system evolves as the shape of our economy globally evolves, so that we can carry on funding our public services effectively while still supporting rising living standards. That's the challenge.
Thank you.
Sam Coates from The Times. Question to each of you. Chancellor, you talk about the importance of reducing the deficit. Can you commit today by when, under your chancellorship, you would eliminate the deficit? And Prime Minister, you'll be very aware of the events on the other side of the Atlantic involving the White House and Russia and allegations of spying and what's going on with Donald Trump. Do you have full confidence in Donald Trump?
We have, well, should I take that last one? We have a very special relationship, as you know, with the United States of America. This is the most important defence and security relationship that we have around the world. I was very pleased that when I went to the United States shortly after President Trump's inauguration, he was able to commit to his 100% commitment to NATO, which is an important bedrock of our security and the bedrock of the security of Europe. We continue to work together, and we have confidence in that relationship between us and the United States that it helps to keep us all safer.
Sam, nobody should be in any doubt about our commitment to balancing the budget, to getting the country back to living within its means. That is essential if we're going to build a sustainable economy for the future. But as to the exact timetable and commitments, you'll have to wait, I'm afraid, until the manifesto is published.
Right, thank you. Yes, Martin. Yes, Martin.
Rob Hutton from...
Sorry, Rob.
Rob Hutton from Bloomberg. Prime Minister, you've dealt with security matters. You've dealt with stuff coming from sensitive sources. Does the fact that the President of the United States seems willing to discuss things freely with people in the Oval Office from Russia or wherever, does that make you more reluctant to share British intelligence with the US?
Decisions about what President Trump discusses with anybody that he has in the White House is a matter for President Trump. We continue to work with the United States and continue to share intelligence with the United States, as we do with others around the world, because we are all working together to deal with the threats that we face. The key threat, of course, being the threat of terrorism, predominantly from Daesh, but we must never forget that Al-Qaeda is still out there. So working with the United States and others to deal with that terrorist threat is an important part of maintaining our national security, and we will continue to do so. I'll take next, Ben.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Do you accept that Brexit is to blame for the 17% slide in sterling since June's referendum? And if you don't accept that, what do you think is to blame?
Well, if you look at actually what happened to sterling, sterling had started to fall back before the referendum vote came through. So there have been adjustments to sterling. Actually, if you look, it isn't just that sterling's gone down. We've seen sterling move around as currencies do. What matters to any government, actually, is that we have a credible economic plan that is able to ensure that we can deal with the circumstances as they develop. I don't know if you want to add anything, Philip.
Well, the key thing is to get started straight after the election with the Brexit negotiations, make progress as quickly as we can, and get the best possible deal for Britain. Business hates uncertainty. Everybody knows that. The sooner we can create certainty, certainty about Britain's future relationship with Europe, certainty about how they will be able to operate their businesses, the better it will be for the British economy. That needs strong and determined leadership in those negotiations, and it's very clear to me that Jeremy Corbyn cannot provide that leadership.
Yes. Oh, no. Sorry, I don't know everybody's name, so I'm having to point rather.
Thank you. Jack Maidment from the Daily Telegraph. A question for both of you, if I may. Labour has unveiled plans to put up taxes on the top 5% of earners. Can people earning more than £80,000 expect to hear similarly bad news in the Conservative manifesto?
Well, first of all, you won't be surprised for me to say that we will be setting out our policies in the manifesto when we publish it tomorrow. But if you look at the issue of taxation, let's just look at what we've done at our record as Conservatives in government. We've taken 4 million people out of paying income tax altogether, and 31 million people have seen a tax cut. And for a basic rate taxpayer, that's been worth about £1,000 a year. So I come back to the point that Philip made earlier, that actually there is a very clear choice between the two parties. It's between a Conservative party that has always believed in lower taxes, that continues to believe in lower taxes and will continue to be a low tax party, and a Labour Party whose natural instinct is to put up taxes. But what we see from their manifesto is that the impact won't just be about higher taxes, it'll be about jobs lost, it'll be about lower wages, it'll be about higher prices for consumers. What we see from Labour's manifesto is that it's ordinary working families up and down the country who will pay the price.
I think it's perhaps just worth reminding ourselves as well where we are today. The top 1% of income earners pay 27% of all the income tax collected in this country. That's a higher percentage than under the Labour government right now, today.
I think this will be the last question. I think, do we see Sam? Yes.
Steve Hawkes at The Sun. Two things, if I may, Prime Minister. Firstly, the Conservatives have positioned themselves as the party of the families just managing to get by the ordinary worker. Can you explain to them why it is a bad idea to put a payroll tax on salaries of $330,000 or more? And the Chancellor has been very effusive about the working relationship you both have. If I may reverse to tittle-tattle, Prime Minister, can you give us an endorsement of the Chancellor?
Happy to do so, yes. Very happy to do so. And as Philip says, we've worked together over the years, for many years, longer than we would care to identify. I think that's an age-related comment, nothing else, if just in case you try and relate anything into that. In relation to what is happening in Labour Party's manifesto, the key thing is that you have to ask yourselves, with the impositions that they are putting on business, they're proposing to put on business, what would the impact of that be? And sometimes it's easy for people to think, oh, this is just about business and business will pay and there won't be any impact on anybody else. Actually, that's not right, because if business doesn't think this is a good place to be in the UK, then they won't come here. We won't see investment. We won't see jobs being created. And people will lose out. They'll lose out in higher prices that they're paying in the shops. They'll lose out in lower wages. They'll lose out in fewer jobs. What we need to do is to make sure that the United Kingdom is the most attractive place to set up a business, to grow a business, to provide those jobs and investment that will really secure people's future. Thank you.